Hey there, welcome back to Redefining Her Game. I'm Jen, and I'm so glad you pressed play today. If you're new here, this podcast is for women who are done living by everyone else's rules. We're creating our own playbook. And today's episode is all about the big one, letting go of what was supposed to happen. The career that was supposed to take off, the relationship that was supposed to last, the version of you that was supposed to be thriving now. Yeah, we're going there on a Monday. So let's talk about the invisible script, right? Let's start with something that hits hard, but honest. Who wrote the script you're living by? You know what I'm talking about. The one that says you should have a stable career by 30, you should have been married by now, you should own a home, you should be settled and polished and never messy. Maybe it was your family, maybe a teacher, maybe your church, or for those of us that looked at magazines, maybe it was a magazine cover, right? Maybe it was just scrolling social media and thinking, wait, what is 25 or 46 supposed to look like? But here's the thing. No one actually handed us the playbook, right? Like, officially. We just picked it up from somewhere. We absorbed it, internalized it, and for a while it worked. Or at least we pretended it did. Until one day, it didn't. And maybe that's why you're here. So I'm here. So let me tell you a quick story. There was a moment not too long ago, I'm going to be honest, mid-career, mid-motherhood, mid-chaos everywhere, where I looked around and realized I literally had everything I thought I wanted and still felt completely off. It was like I was living a life that looked really great on paper, but it didn't fit me anymore. And I wasn't ungrateful, but I was disconnected from me. Right? That's when I realized I was chasing a version of success that wasn't even mine. I was playing by rules that I never really agreed to in the first place. Like, again, we're going to go back to that moment you realize you've been checking all the boxes, but none of them feel like yours. Like, it's just wild how much of our lives are shaped by supposed to, right? Supposed to stay in the career, supposed to settle, supposed to keep quiet, supposed to be grateful. And yet here we are. We're unlearning the old stuff, learning some new, unbecoming what we don't want to be anymore, and becoming something even greater. We're unraveling and unfolding that script. Not because we failed, like not at all, but because we grew. And growth doesn't always follow like a linear plot line, right? Happy, balanced, settled, all of it. But what happens when that doesn't go as planned? Do we pivot? Do we hide? Or if we're being honest, like, do we shame ourselves for it? Possibly. So let's talk about something that doesn't get enough space in conversations like this. Dreaming the life you thought you'd have. Okay, so here's the part that it gets kind of uncomfortable. Because we don't just grieve people, we grieve plans, we grieve timelines, we grieve versions of ourselves that never came to be. And no one prepares us for that. Like there's no permission slip that says, hey, it's okay to feel heartbroken about what didn't happen. But I want to offer you that permission right now. Maybe you thought you'd be further ahead in your career. Maybe you thought you'd have a different relationship status, be in a different city, have a different level of peace by now. Maybe you look around and think, this was not the plan. And yet here the hell I am, right? I'm stuck in this in-between where there's this like quiet ache you're not sure how to name. Sometimes for me, the hardest grief is the one we can't explain to anyone. It's that like whisper that kind of creeps up and says like, this isn't the life I pictured. This isn't who I thought I'd be. And yet we feel guilty for even feeling that way. We're taught to be grateful, to push through, to not make a big deal out of something that doesn't seem tragic. But I'm here to tell you, this matters. Your disappointment deserves compassion. Even if no one else sees it, even if your life looks fine on the outside, because when we ignore the sadness, we don't heal. We just harden. And maybe that brings me to the most important part of this grief segment, right? Is grace. You are allowed to give yourself grace. Grace for the choices you made that felt right at the time. Grace for the red flags you didn't see until it was too late. Grace for staying in things longer than you should have. And grace for doing your absolute best, even when it didn't work out. We love to extend grace to our family, our kids, our coworkers, our friends. But when was the last time you looked in the mirror and gave that same kindness to yourself? Like, we're so quick to blame ourselves when something doesn't go according to plan. We rewrite the past like a script we could have edited better. If I had just done this, if I had only done this, what if I was more of this? But what if you rewrote the story with grace instead of guilt? What if, just hear me out, what if instead of shaming the version of you who had hope, you honored her? What if you said, she didn't fail. She was brave enough to dream. She didn't fall behind. She just took the scenic route. And she's not broken. She's growing. Because here's the truth, right? Letting go of a plan doesn't mean giving up. It means making space for something better, even if you don't know what this is yet. And I know it's not easy. I mean, we're going through this together. Letting go can feel like giving up on a version of yourself you were so sure was going to happen. Like you had it all mapped out. The job, the relationship, the lifestyle, the timeline. But we know life has this wild way of showing up for us. Growth isn't always predictable. And healing isn't always tidy. So if you're in that space, that in between of what was supposed to be and what could still be, I want to invite you just to take a deep breath with me right now. Go ahead. Inhale and exhale. And now just quietly say to yourself, I release the pressure and I offer myself grace. I'm allowed to change directions because you are. Letting go is not failure. It's freedom. And grace is the bridge between the two. So if you've been carrying the weight of a plan that didn't unfold, put it down for a minute. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter. Grief can be the loss of a dream that just didn't happen right now. If you're sitting there with that, just know that I see you. I'm right there with you. You're not alone. That's what this space is for. Okay. So we've talked about the invisible script we're handed, and we've honored the grief that comes with letting go of the plans. We talked about having grace through this process. Now I want to talk about what happens after. After the tears, the silence, the heaviness, that's when something wild and beautiful begins to stir inside, right? It's the pivot. Now, pivoting is a word we hear all the time, right? Like, especially in business and sports and marketing. But let's talk about more of the emotional pivot, that personal one, that moment when you look around and say, the shit isn't working anymore. This doesn't fit me. I've outgrown this. And instead of forcing it, you're choosing something new. But I'll be real, pivoting is not always confident. It's not glamorous. It can be clumsy and unclear and super uncomfortable, right? It can feel like leaving a room without knowing what's on the other side of the door. And me personally, that scares the shit out of me. But we're going to leave anyways. Because we know staying in something that no longer fits you, nothing good's going to come of that, right? That's not bravery. We're just kind of abandoning ourselves. And you don't owe that to anyone. Not anymore. Let me tell you something that helped me. You're allowed to change your mind. And you're allowed to say, I know this was the plan, but I'm not that version of me anymore. It's not flaky. It's not weak. It's just what happens when we evolve. When we wake up, we can see ourselves more clearly. And when that clarity comes, pivot. Even if people don't understand. Even if they say, but you loved that job. But that relationship seemed perfect. But that was your dream. Listen, dreams can frickin' expire. Goals can shift, right? What used to be aligned might no longer be aligned. And that's more than okay. Pivoting isn't abandoning your past. It's honoring who you're becoming. You are not required to carry forward old definitions of success, worth, or identity just because they once mattered to a former version of you. You've changed. And that's the whole damn point. You don't need to have it all figured out before the pivot. sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is take the first uncertain step. Not because the path is clear, but because you're finally clear. Like, I'm pivoting into this podcast, right? Like, I want to make sure, I just want others to know that there's someone out there going through the same thing as them. And I never want someone to feel as alone or isolated as I did. So I'm taking this huge risk on building a space, this podcast, not knowing what the hell I'm doing, by the chance that someone else will be like, there's someone out there that has gone through these steps, or there's someone out there that understands where I'm at. This might be harder before it gets easier. It's going to stretch you. But here's what else is true. You will meet yourself there more fully, more honestly, more boldly. And isn't that what we're all craving? Like, to feel more connected to who we really are now? Not who we were 5 years ago or who others expect us to be. Pivoting is not about proving anything, but maybe more about aligning everything. So if no one else has said this to you, hear me now. I trust you. I trust your gut. I trust your growth. And I believe in your ability to pivot into something even better. Something that reflects the woman you're becoming now. So take the step. I'm right here doing the same thing. Open the door. Try the new thing. Let go of needing it to be perfect. Easier said than done. And just let it be real. So we've unboxed the invisible script, right? We've grieved the life we thought we'd have. We've given ourselves grace to make mistakes of all sizes, to learn to forgive, and to move forward. We've explored the pivot. Now let's talk about what happens next. Let's talk about the most freeing and maybe the most terrifying part of all of this, right? Redefining. Redefining who you are, what matters to you, what success looks like, what you believe about your worth. We'll talk a lot about worth throughout this entire life of ours. But what do you want the rest of your life to feel like, not just look like? Because when we let go of what was supposed to happen, we make space to ask, what do I want to happen now? So let's think about this. Let me ask you, if no one was watching, no timeline, no Instagram, no story, no family pressure, what would you choose? Would you leave the job? Would you start a business, go back to school, take a break and rest, move cities, fall in love again? Maybe with yourself? This is your reminder that you don't have to keep living a version of your life that no longer fits just because you invested time, energy, and identity into it. You're not stuck. You're not too late. You're not behind. You are allowed to shift, and you're allowed to redefine. And here's the thing about redefining your life. You don't need to have a 5-year plan. You don't need everyone's goddamn approval. You don't need to explain it perfectly. You just need permission. And guess what? That permission, though, doesn't come from me, doesn't come from your partner, doesn't come from your mom or your boss or your followers. It comes from you. It starts really with one simple sentence. This version of me deserves something new. Say it out loud. Whisper it if you have to. Write it down. Tattoo it on your heart if that's what it takes. Because redefining your life is not a betrayal of your past. It's a commitment to your future. And it's going to be freaking messy. And it's going to require unlearning. And it may cost you some people, some comfort, some certainty. But what you gain you. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain ownership of your story. And when you start living from that place, that deep anchored, unapologetic place, you stop performing and you start becoming. So here's my invitation. Friends, hear me out again. Let go of what was supposed to happen. Give yourself permission to want more, want different, want again. And then redefine your game on your terms. Not for applause, not for perfection, but for freedom. Because you deserve a life that's not just pretty on the outside, but honest and whole on the inside. So let's just say this together, right? I give myself permission to redefine what success looks like. Success that feels good. Because you don't owe anyone a linear story. You don't have to explain why something didn't go as planned. If it brought you wisdom, if it gave you strength, if it helped you grow, then maybe it wasn't a detour at all. Maybe that was the path. You're not late. You're not broken. You're just evolving. So now what? What do we do after we've let go? We listen. We trust ourselves. We ask better questions. Like, what actually matters to me now? What kind of life do I want to build from here? What lights me up, even if it looks nothing like the original plan? Letting go isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself. Isn't that what redefining your game is all about? All right, before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with two things. One, an affirmation and a challenge. So let's start with the affirmation. Close your eyes if you're not driving, and just breathe with me for a second, and then repeat after me, or just let the words wash over you. I release what was supposed to be. I honor the woman I am today. I give myself permission to grow, change, and begin again. I'm not broken. I'm becoming. Go ahead and say this again when you're spiraling. Write it down, speak it into the mirror. Just let it be your anchor as you pivot, shift, and redefine this week. Now let's talk about the weekly challenge. If you've been here before, you know this is a special part of the podcast because we're not just talking about change. We're creating it together. So, your challenge for this week, compliment a woman you don't know. At the store, at the gym, at work, online. Tell her she's radiant. Tell her you love her energy. Tell her you see her trying. And it's beautiful. Why? Because kindness is contagious. And as the sisterhood that we're building, we don't just lift ourselves up, but we lift each other up. So this week, let your words be someone else's spark. And if you do this, DM me, tag us. Use the hashtag redefining her game so we can celebrate you. We're going to flood this world with compliments, courage, connection, and we're going to repeat that shit every single week. Remember, you're allowed to become who you were always meant to be. And I'll be right here cheering you on. So I'll see you here next Monday.